feel the funk when Lionel Richie and Earth, Wind & Fire come to St. Paul. Catch these two legendary acts in one incredible night when they take the stage at Grand Casino Arena on June 24th. Tickets are on sale now. Get the full details at KFAN.com. Keyword calendar.
This recent construction is really throwing off my vibe. Got to go all the way down now to the sales stable in order to use the microwave, and there's only one. I had two things. These are common man problems.
What very problems?
The chili, I think, which is a turkey chili, very low in a caloric intake, very healthy for you. And then I did that for a minute, put in the vegetables along with it for a minute. The vegetables are still cold. You ever go to a restaurant and they bring it out and you know it's been sitting under, when you go out to eat, okay, with your family, if you order something that's pretty quick, right? Like a burger. Let's say you get a smash burger or a double cheese bacon burger, whatever, right? And then someone else in your party gets like the salmon or the walleye or a steak or something. Theirs takes longer to prepare. They know yours is sitting there when they bring it out. And, the person that got the salmon, it's hot and fresh. And you touch yours and it's like, it's lukewarm. And then, if you send it back, they're going to employ Chef Mike. You know who Chef Mike is, right?
Yes.
That's the microwave. And they're just going to put it in there and reheat it. But
we ordered pizza for delivery the other night. I won't say the name of the company.
Okay.
But we got two pizzas, one cheese, one sausage.
Yeah.
The cheese clearly had been like fresh, cooked. Looked like it had just come out of the oven, even though it had been delivered. The other one looked because you can still see kind of kind of like that perspiration on whatever you want to call that, like kind of like the wet cheese.
Yeah.
Whereas the other one was just completely dried out. I'm like, these two were not cooked at the same time.
No, they were not. Your other one was done earlier. They just kind of left it there.
It's been sitting on there, on the warming
sad,
rack.
Really. These are the things we have to deal with on a daily basis.
Woodbury problems.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and do 534.
Time now for 5 questions. Well, actually 3, but 5 sounds like more than 4. Question number 1.
Time now for an in-depth look at the state of hockey.
Yeah, we talked about it last segment. The Wild rallied from a 3-0 deficit.
He finds the lane, helps Spurgeon, right side, fired one in front, a chance, in time, rebound, the score! Spurgeon! Jared Spurgeon tucks on the loose puck, and with 2:01 to go, the Wild have come all the way back. It's 3-3 in St. Paul.
Yeah, Joe O'Donnell on the call last night right here on the Fan. The Wild were down 3-0. They come back. Jared Spurgeon ties that game with just 2 minutes to go, and then the Wall of St. Paul closed it out.
Speeding through the slot, took a shot, blocker save, Alston, and the Wild win! He flushed out his right arm, denied Donato, and the Wild stormed back from a 3-0 deficit. They stunned the Blackhawks in the shootout, 4-3 the final.
Yeah, as Joe O'Donnell said, 4-3 shootout win for the Wild last night in St. Paul. They extended their point streak versus Chicago to 18 games. Jesper Wallstedt made 29 saves. The penalty kill was 5 for 5, including a big one in overtime. Joel Eriksson Ek tallied a goal and assist. Jared Spurgeon scored that game-tying goal with 2:02 left in regulation. Common, what sticks out to you from last night's Wild win?
How'd the Wild do last night, by the way? Oh, not listening. Sorry about that. The comeback, I like it. Again, we did talk about it before the break. I was wondering if it was a little Wolves-itis, where it's like Wolves are playing, a bottom feeder. And you go, well, we don't even need to break a sweat till the second half. Then you come out in the third quarter, and all of a sudden you just put it all together. And, like Nebraska did. I don't think Nebraska was coasting through the first half of that. I told you, the Gophers, I didn't see the first half, but Gophers were up 36-30 against 7th-ranked Nebraska. Well, they won by 20, I think. So it was a 25-point turnaround. They just totally out, just kind of like, let's step on the gas now. By the way, Nebraska did lose. Was it last night? They played Michigan. Michigan's number 2 in the country, I think, and they only lost by, I think, 3 points. and it was at Michigan. So Nebraska did well for themselves. But yeah, just that you come back and win the game. It's like just trying to accumulate points. We've talked about this forever. I guess barring a total collapse, and maybe you're paying closer attention to the standings as I am, we're going to finish 2 or 3, right?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of, unless there's major injuries to our team or the other 2 teams, Dallas and the Lanch.
You can just book your hotels in Dallas right now.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. So that's what I'd say. The comebacks are nice. Always nice to come back when you're behind.
Question number 2. And now it's time to go in the trenches.
Bill Belichick, the 8-time Super Bowl winning head coach, is not a first ballot Hall of Famer. In voting earlier this month, Belichick fell short of the 40 out of 50 votes needed for induction into the Pro Football Hall of Fame during his first year of eligibility. Comment, are you surprised that Belichick is not a first ballot Hall of Famer?
We know what happens in baseball all the time. You'll get like Joe DiMaggio. Our nation turns its lonely eyes to you. There'll be one guy, can't do it. Don't think he had it. And it's like, dude, quit trying to attract attention to yourself. Maybe you got some narcissism. With Belichick, I don't know how. I mean, even if you want to give the credit to Brady and say it's all Brady, coach was there for 6 of them, right? And it's like,
well, anyone too as a coordinator.
Yeah, it's like, unless he seems to be kind of gruff.
Yeah.
And I don't know what he's like in his one-on-one dealings with media members, but could he have rubbed some media members the wrong? Because there are people that do.
There's no other explanation.
Yeah, they hold grudges. Yeah, I don't know what else it could be. As you mentioned, and I wasn't aware of how many as a coordinator, but if 2 big games as a coordinator and 6 as a head coach, if that's not first ballot Hall of Fame eligibility, I don't know what is. I don't think we need to launch an investigation, but I just think it's, I guess as the late, great Dark Star would say, sad, really.
Well, it's even more worse that it's football, right? Like in the NFL, it doesn't seem like there's 5 or 6 guys who get in every year, which is too many. Like baseball, you got to get a certain amount of percentage of the vote, and a lot of times they're trying to hold votes for other players.
Correct.
So it's a little bit easier to not be a first ballot. In football, because they got like 5 or 6 going every year, how does basically the winningest coach in the history of the sport?
I don't know. Has there been a lot?
And he's not likable. I don't like him.
Yeah.
But him not being a first ballot Hall of Famer there's no rational explanation.
I agree.
Question number 3. It's time now for the lowdown in Dinkytown.
Gophers football schedule was released yesterday. Here it is. They host Eastern Illinois, then Mississippi State, then Akron. Then they begin Big 18 play at Washington, home to Michigan, at Purdue, home to Iowa, at Indiana, home to UCLA, at Penn State, home to Northwestern, and then at Wisconsin. Common, how will the U fare next season?
No the on the schedule?
No the, but Michigan, Penn State, and Indiana apparently. What do you got to be worried about?
Go to the top again and just do each team in home or away.
So the first 3 are at home. It's the non-conference games.
3-0.
Now Mississippi State is actually they're a Power 5 school at least. So
yeah, I'm going to give PJ and his pals the benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
I'll go 3-0.
At Washington.
L.
Or is it Washington?
It's Washington. That's an L.
Home to Michigan.
That's an L.
At Purdue.
That's a W.
I feel like we've had some bad losses at Purdue over the years.
I think we're going to overcome it.
Home to Iowa.
Let's go W. Let's go ahead.
Wow, rare victory over
I'm going to go at home. I'm going to say, and that's the Iowa season. It's really big.
At Indiana.
That's an L.
Home to UCLA.
The California Jabronis. Let's go with another W.
Wow, you're very optimistic.
Thank you.
At Penn State.
That's an L.
Home to Northwestern.
That's a W.
At Wisconsin.
That's a W.
What, they're like 9-4?
9-4.
Wow.
I'm a homer, man. Then we get an extended PJ Flex show. We get an extra one for the bowl game. That's so much fun.
Well, it can't be 9-4. Is it 9-3? We had Michigan, Indiana, and Penn State as the losses.
I'm just going to.
You had Washington as well.
Ducky and bunny it up. Yeah, that's what I'm going to go with. I don't know. I mean, put it this way: I reserve the right to change. You know how they say, "Don't Don't they do that? Don't they have those disclaimers on things where, scheduling may change or something like that? But that's right. I got right.
I feel like this is not a very favorable schedule.
Yeah, it probably isn't, to be honest. What did I have, Matt?
I think you had them at like 8-4.
Let's flip-flop that. 4-8. Yeah, I'm going to go 4-8. No, I just spit my chili out of my mouth. Let's go with so what's happened? Let's go 6-6 and get another bowl game. You know what I like better? Let's go 5-7 and then get a bid because of our grades.
Yeah.
I love the grades one. That's so good.
All I know is you're looking at 12 games. I'm only looking at Eastern Illinois. This is our Eastern Illinois championship season. We're trying to go 1-0 in the Eastern Illinois championship season.
Yeah, you're right. I should not have gone that far ahead. You're right. I'm sorry.
Question number 3.
Controversy.
I'm going to say something controversial.
That's interesting.
It's time now for the controversial question of the day.
This one's very controversial, Common.
Okay.
Which cartoon character would you most likely like to be friends with? Are you sure you want to answer that?
That's all, folks.
Maybe Porky Pig.
Porky Pig?
Maybe. Boy, man.
I told you, it's a hard one.
Well, and it is controversial.
Yeah.
Too.
I mean, what camp are you in? Which cartoon character camp?
I know that sounds like Mike Tice. That's actually Barney Rubble.
That's who I was going to pick.
Were you really?
Barney, yeah. He seems fun.
Barney Rubble seems like a really nice guy, except when he drank Fred's cactus cooler. Barney came over to visit Fred before he got home. He took the last cactus cooler out of the refrigerator, and Fred came home, and he's just dying of thirst. And Barney drank the last cactus cooler. Do you know how bitter Fred was? I'm a modern day guy with regular show. You've heard me talk about it. You've seen my T-shirts. It's Mordecai and Rigby are the stars. They're a blue jay and a raccoon. They work at a park. Their park manager is Benson, he's a gumball machine. But he has anger man. One of the greatest lines ever is they look at him. Somebody looks at him and says, "You're an aging park manager with an anger issue," because he gets so bent out of shape. And his head is the bubblegum machine, and it gets just bright red. I don't know if I'd want to be friends with him because he gets so angry all the time.
Yeah.
Mordecai and Rigby are sort of the goof-offs that were kind of like me. They remind me of some of the guys I used to go to high school with. So I think it would be, if I could use two, I'd say I'd like to be pals with Mordecai and Rigby. Final answer.
And that's it for today's edition of 5 questions. Well, actually 3 questions, but 5 sounds like more than 4.
Other side of the break, Rock Talk, and then deep into Rock Talk, it'll be Rock Rank. Brian Oake joins us next. Tennevy's got a keyword, though, going to break.
The fan wants to give you a shot to win bonus bucks with our national cash contest. Enter the keyword dollar at KFAN.com now for a shot at winning. The keyword is dollar. Enter now at KFAN.com. We all that one teacher who believed in us. Show your gratitude with Thank a Teacher, powered by Donors Choose. Nominate a public school teacher to win $5,000 for their classroom. This week, we want to give a shout out to Tyler Halverson, who teaches at Independence Elementary School. Nominate a teacher to thank today at iHeartRadio.com/teachers.
Afternoon. We call it a Wet Blanket Wednesday. I'm Comedy's Tenneby. Excited and delighted to be joined in Studio A by Brian Oake. How are you, me boy?
I'm doing all right. And I realized listening on the way in, I don't come in here because I'm a repository of information and insight regarding the world of music. I found out that I'm just a segment killer with a deep voice. I always love that one.
Well, there's that.
Well, I guess actually it's segments killer now.
Yeah, we've changed that. Okay, good. Well, but in this day and age, in this dog-eat-dog world of broadcasts, I'll take it. You know what? If that's my role, I'm here for a couple segments. I'm good.
I didn't want it to diminish your contributions. To
No, of course not. No, I understand. But I mean, again, there are priorities, right? What do you got? How many of these segments do you have every day? 15? 9? Okay, so that's 45 minutes a week. But if I can help carry a couple of those stones for you, I'm more than happy to.
We might make this 3 seconds. Is what we might do.
3 days a week.
You do a podcast.
I do, in fact, do a podcast. It's called The Brian Oake Show. 549 episodes now officially in the can, and you can find it on the free iHeartRadio app. Other side note is that the podcast has been nominated for Best Podcast in the Twin Cities, and that voting is up until, thank you, early February. So if you've ever listened and you feel like, that's good, toss me a vote. If not, you listen to it, you're like, that's trash, I hate it, then don't. But I just wanted to mention that, and if people feel like voting, you can do it over at mspmag.com.
Tennessee, do you have that $25,000 pyramid, ding, ding, ding?
Wow.
So you got to guess.
Okay.
Taylor Swift, Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, Christopher Tricky Stewart,
Who?
Alanis Morissette, Kenny Loggins.
Artists who... Wow. Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley, but not the rest of the band. Taylor Swift.
Christopher Stewart, Alanis Morissette, and Kenny Loggins.
I don't know who Christopher Stewart is, and I can't think of what might tie the other two. I'm out.
What is Songwriters Hall of Fame inductees
there
for
we go.
2026?
There we go. Okay.
There they are.
I should have thought of that.
Yeah, the Songwriters Hall of Fame.
For some reason, I was thinking about like performances because all of them can kind of fill big rooms,
I don't know Christopher Tricky Stewart either.
I don't know
I'm
who
not
that
sure, and
is.
I suppose I could dial down on the story. I just saw the story and said, bingo, here's a Rock Talk topic. I'm obviously very aware of all the others. I'm not real familiar with Alanis Morissette's music because I was never really, I never listened to it. I've not listened to Taylor Swift, but I've heard of her.
Yeah.
I think I'm familiar with her.
What was this other guy's name? Christopher Tricky Smith?
Yeah. Stewart. Christopher
Stewart.
Tricky Stewart. And we both know the two primary songwriters for Kiss.
Of course.
Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley. Kenny Loggins.
Yeah.
We talked remember when we were doing duos, best duos?
Oh, yeah.
I put my Kenny Loggins and Jim Messina.
Loggins and Messina.
Again, I don't know how much time they had together and how many albums it was, but I just loved their sound. It was, I don't know if you'd call it yacht rock, pop rock, a lot of acoustical stuff. But their songs always just resonated. I just love their sound and such like that.
Right.
And Kenny Loggins, I mean, he's written hundreds, or at least dozens of smash hits. But,
yeah, dozens is probably more like it. And for a while, I mean, half the movies that seemed like came out in the middle and later half of the 80s had a Kenny Loggins theme song to them, in addition to all of his other hits. Yeah, no, he belongs there. He has written songs, because when you write a song that is going on a theme song, that's not only like a pre-existing thing that someone just picked. It's got to be good. It's got to have a hook. It's got to match what credits feel like, and it's got to have a good enough theme in it that theme can recur several times throughout a movie. Having the ability to write those songs is a very specific art and skill form. I think he's absolutely deserving of consideration for sure.
He also wrote the song, we ain't got money.
Really?
He did Danny's song. That was a Loggins and Messina.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. I suppose, yeah.
I now know who Christopher Tricky Stewart is.
I do too. I've done a little digging here.
Game-changing R&B songwriter, producer, and rapper. He's best known for his works with Rihanna's Umbrella, Beyonce's Single Ladies, and Break My Soul. So he's written, those are, I'm assuming, major hits for those two superstars.
He also co-wrote some songs for Britney off her fourth album, In the Zone. Me Against the Music probably being the biggest one that he co-wrote and helped produce for that record. So yeah, he's one of these giant players who's not an everyday household name, but apparently knows what he's doing when it comes to writing massive pop hits.
It also says the Hall annually inducts performers and non-performers alike. This year, the latter category, non-performers, include the duo of Terry Britton and Graham Lyle, and they list one of their songs, and this was obviously a huge hit for Tina Turner, What's love got to do with it?
Yeah, that's about as big as it gets.
Yes.
I mean, that was her giant comeback song that not only needed to be a good radio hit, but that was Tina Turner's kind of coming out solo party. And here I am on the other side of that, whatever that was with Ike. And I'm going to make a statement, and I'm going to reinvent myself as an even bigger superstar than I already was. And that had to be the song. And so, I mean, people like that, they're held within a real regard, and they make real money for doing that well.
This one also says it's also not uncommon for performers to gain entry after multiple nominations. Walter Afanasio, or however you say it, who helped Mariah Carey with her smash All I Want for Christmas Is You, he was previously nominated for the Songwriters Hall of Fame class, didn't make it in 2025 and did this year. Sort of like Tennessee and I were just talking about how no first ballot Hall of Fame for Bill Belichick, Patriots coach. Sometimes people don't make it.
Exactly. You know? Well, and I mean, and I'm certain that the window is closed or the time has passed where we're going to recognize hundreds of names like this that were behind the scenes people, that were crucial people, that were absolutely worthy of this kind of fame, but it's just come and gone already. Something tells me Belichick's going to be all right.
Yeah, I think he'll be just fine. Now, let me ask you this. You have the opportunity to be in either the Songwriters Hall of Fame or just the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Which one do you?
Well, I think most of these people consider themselves artists. That's why I'm a little surprised to see Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons on this list that you've given, because Kiss was never really known for their songcraft. They wrote catchy rock numbers that sounded great when there were exploding fire pots and crazy costumes on. I would probably pick Songwriters Hall of Fame, because if I am an obnoxious and relentless artist, I obviously consider myself an artist in my craft. Yes, playing it is one thing. Certainly album sales and worldwide recognition don't hurt, but ultimately this is my art and I want to get it out there, and I think I'd feel a greater sense of accomplishment getting into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. That being said, I haven't really seen what their standards are and who they're letting in there, and if it's Kiss, then probably Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
I've got another interesting story too about how, and we'll talk about it on the other side of the break, how, and we've seen this happen, like for instance with, remember when Dreams by Fleetwood Mac, that was 1977, right? Then all of a sudden, was it 5-6 years ago, when Skateboarder Guy with the cranberry juice? Yep. That song suddenly vaults into the, it became like a top 20 song again.
It went viral, baby.
It went viral. Same thing with another Fleetwood Mac song. I remember when the Chevrolet commercial had Everywhere. And same thing. All of a sudden, the kids had never heard that. And why would they? 1987, right?
Right.
You're not diving deep into that. That song did it. Another one has happened, and I think this one is very interesting. So we'll take a look at that, and I'm sure you have a topic or two.
I got a couple things on the other side.
And, of course, we have Rock Rank. That's coming as well. So we'll take a break. We'll come back with more of Rock Talk here on The Fan.
Want to chime in on what's happening with your favorite KFAN program? We'll make your voice heard on the Bradshaw and Brian text line. Let us know what you have to say by texting your message to 64686. That's 64686. Standard message and data rates apply.
Kennedy, what were the high and low again? Did you say? Was it 6 and 9?
Low of -6 tonight.
Okay.
High of 9 tomorrow.
6 and 9 are the two numbers that are included in what I think is one of the greatest song titles of all time, Jimi Hendrix, If 6 Was 9.
Yeah,
it's just brilliant.
It's funny you should mention that. The record store that I work at part-time, I do a little DJ set every morning from 10 until 2, and that one's already in the stack for this coming week. That song in particular, I looked at a bunch of them, and it fit the vibe, it fit the moment, and it reminds us the crucial nature of waving our freak flag high, no matter how old we are, no matter where we are in life. Be you and be ridiculously you.
I just love If 6 Was 9, because think about it. If 6 was 9, that would mean 9 is 6. Those are the deep questions.
Well, exactly. In a way, though, they are. I mean, if it turned out that everything you thought you knew was a lie and was not right and was somehow obfuscation or whatever, he's like, I don't mind. If it's 6 turned out to be 9, I don't mind. Because I got my own life to live in, and I ain't going to copy you.
And brilliant. Now,
I love it.
Here's my favorite title of all time.
Go on.
I'm a cranky old Yank in a clanky old tank on the streets of Yokohama with my Honolulu mama doing the Beto Blues.
Okay. It's a great
It's
title.
the name of a real song. If you look up the Guinness Book of World Records, when you were a kid, did you have the Guinness Book of World Records?
Of course I did.
Greatest thing to
With
ever
the
have.
two fat cowboy brothers on their little motorcycles.
Oh, so good.
Exactly.
And
Yes,
and that
absolutely.
is the longest title of a song in the history of music.
Look at that.
I'm a cranky old Yank in a clanky old tank on the streets of Yokohama with my Honolulu mama singing the Beto Blues.
Huh. Any idea on who the artist might have been there?
I don't know who it is. And then by the time you get through the title of the song's over.
Right.
Because that's basically it.
They get to sing it once.
They get to sing it once.
Uh-huh.
Are you familiar with Jeff Buckley?
I am.
Oh, you are? Then
Well-
did you see this story too, or did you know him before this story that I just saw today?
Oh, yeah, no. Jeff Buckley it's a tragic story, but his father, Tim Buckley, was a lifelong singer, songwriter, folky, popular guy. Tim Buckley has more than a dozen records. Jeff Buckley was coming along and making a name entirely for himself, was this very thoughtful, soulful singer, songwriter, the kind of songwriter and respect and critical acclaim that he got, even when he was still alive, was kind of like what John Mayer would like, he wrote these really emotional, big, atmospheric, sometimes orchestral songs, and he was on the path to becoming genuinely, some would argue that he was already genuinely great, but in terms of legacy and widespread appeal and just awareness of him, he's a really, really important songwriter, and then tragically was out swimming one night and drowned. But his music is revered. Grace is an album that everyone should at least listen to if they don't buy it.
That's why you're on Rock Talk, because you knew all of that. I had no idea.
Yep.
I stumbled across a story that says this month, 30 years after his death, the acclaimed singer-songwriter Jeff Buckley landed on the Billboard Hot 100 for the very first time.
That's
and
wild.
It's all because of TikTok. It says what happened here was almost 29 years after his passing, his song Lover, You Should Have Come Over, an emotional ballad from his 1994 album, went viral on TikTok. The surge in popularity, driven by a new generation of listeners discovering his music, led the track to enter the Billboard Hot 100 at 97 this week. While Buckley had posthumous successes before, such as his iconic cover of Hallelujah, this marked his first ever appearance on the main U.S. Top 100 singles chart. And TikTok doesn't figure into that, but what happens is TikTok, it goes viral, and then people do the streaming.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where it becomes. But again, that's why I kind of compared it. Maybe it's not exactly the same, but compared it to the commercials with the songs Dreams and Everywhere.
Yeah.
And I listened to the song today, and it's.
Well, then you get a vibe of what he was like, right?
Yes.
He's very emotional. He was not unattractive to people who liked him, which never hurts. But he was really soulful and he was really deep, and by all accounts, a very, very decent guy. And yeah, this is just the latest in a long line of things that have either gone viral on TikTok, or before that age, there were people, newer generations being turned on to music that would be included in TV shows or television commercials or movies. Television commercials, most notably being that sort of, like the literally less known than Jeff Buckley British singer-songwriter Nick Drake.
Yes.
He enjoyed a renaissance, and it's really hard to call it that because he was never a huge deal in the States to begin with. But back in the late 60s and early 70s, he was a crucial figure in the British folk movement, and he died tragically at a very young age. No one said his name. I'd never heard of him. And then there was a VW, one of the commercials for their moonroofs, and it's a bunch of kids standing there looking up at the sky, and Pink Moon by Nick Drake is playing in the background. That was really the first modern era example of what you're talking about right now, of something completely unknown to most people that suddenly was very much the conversation of the moment.
And that, when I heard that and then read it, that commercial, I ended up reading about the Nick Drake character. And I actually went out and bought a CD. I added to his.
He's got several great ones.
Yeah, so I bought one for the same thing. And you were right, Buckley, it says, known for his hauntingly beautiful voice and solo studio album Grace, that you just mentioned, 1994, tragically drowned in the Wolf River, a tributary of the Mississippi, on May 20, 1997 at the age of 30. He was in Memphis to work on a second album, which was never finished.
Think about that. So he left behind this incredible but dangerously, awfully brief legacy, right? He puts out this album that is going to cement his place, already has, technically. The tragic nature of him passing so soon thereafter, before we really got any more material, has helped cement it. Think kind of like Amy Winehouse. We only got 2 records out of her before she was gone. That only adds to the legacy, but he was there. He was on to something. This was a young artist, 30 years old, who was on the precipice of genuine greatness and recognition, and then was taken away. So he's always, as great as he was, he's always going to be a cult hero, right? He's never going to be a household name by any means, but his music is fantastic.
Well, the song is he does have, they describe your hauntingly beautiful voice.
Yep.
It is.
Yeah.
The lyrics are pretty deep. And it is it's like a 6.5 minute song, but
he was great.
Yeah, you could see why he was so good. And we talked about Hendrix, another guy who had the 27 Club.
Yeah.
Now, he obviously had a larger body of work released.
But not much.
But same with Janis Joplin and others in the 27 Club and Morrison. But then there were others, too, like you have your Harry Chapins and your Jim Croce's and your Buddy Hollies and the Big Bopper and Richie Valens, people that did die tragically, and you don't know how much. Well, Lennon gunned down at 4. Now, obviously, a very large body of work, but who knows? Now, he would be almost 90 now. Okay, right. But my point is who knows how much more output we would have gotten and with these tragic losses, how much, and again, it's the artist's loss that they're dead and their family members, but the loss that we may have had from some other really great music.
Well, and you can't feel bad about that part of it because that's the nature of our relationship. Right. These people are providing something that somewhere in your brain you need. If what they've created doesn't hit the big red button in your brain, then the two of you never really have a relationship. But once you fall in love, once you open yourself up to it, once you're emotionally invested, yeah, I mean, they mean something to you, and it is tragic because it's on a huge scale, and even Kurt Cobain and Nirvana, right? I mean, you got the one landmark legendary album. Bleach was fine, but that was not, to me, a fully formed Nirvana. Then you get Nevermind. And then they got so popular so radically quickly that they had to just scramble and take a bunch of demos and B-sides and songs they've been working on and put it on a compilation called Incesticide, and that, I think, is a great compilation. And then the last record, which was recorded here in Minnesota, to me, it's a suicide note. I can't really listen to In Utero unless I'm in the right headspace or really on a Kurt Cobain kick. And so to me, you only really have one genuinely great Nirvana album, and that's not enough. I loved Kurt Cobain and his musical output. I loved everybody in that band. I like everything from their entire career, but I feel kind of robbed, man. I wanted more music, and I feel the same way about Amy Winehouse.
And speaking of death, you are the Grum Reaper.
I am.
And you have one.
I do, in fact, have one. Now, this one, again, not a huge household name, right? But if you have ever listened to reggae or you care about the trajectory of Jamaican music at all, we lost a giant. We lost Sly Dunbar. He has died at the age of, I don't have his age here right in front of me, unfortunately, but Sly Dunbar was part of a production duo known as Sly and Robbie. And in addition to producing their own music, they became huge foundational forces in what reggae went through its most convoluted and fractured sort of experience in the 70s. Think about what happened to rock and roll in the 60s, right? It went 50 different directions. Well, Sly and Robbie were right there at the center of all that sort of experiment and trying new things. And the tape loop thing and the dub era was really very popular, and they were there sort of centrally located and waiting for the digital era to come along, which changed everything about Jamaican music. Anyway, it's a long story. Unless you're really deep on reggae, it's not really that interesting, but a foundational figure. Right. Anybody who's ever bobbed their head to a little reggae owes a debt to Sly and Robbie.
He was 73.
There we go. Again, too young.
Very much so. Let's go ahead. Anything else?
That's good for now.
Tennessee, what do you think? Do we do a little
Rock Rank?
Rock rank.
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 Last week we did Brian Oak's top 5 favorite artists or bands from the state of Minnesota. We're going to do a similar theme. We're just going to go up north a little bit. We're going to go with Canada today. So Brian Oak, your top 5 favorite artists or bands from Canada.
Once again, quick qualifier that there are dozens, if not hundreds.
Hundreds
of artists that could be on this list. And I'm avoiding some obvious ones from the modern era. So if you came here looking for Justin Bieber or Avril Lavigne or Drake, that's not going to be happening. But Canada has given us some great stuff. And Canada's a weird situation, right? Wherein a lot of the art that is made in Canada is supported by state funding, right? And so as a result, also Canadian media outlets, at least up until very recently, I don't know if they still are, were required to contain no less than 40% exclusively Canadian content. So although they were still playing stuff from America, Canadian bands were getting a fairer shake in their native Canada, which is why you've got so many of these giant bands, let's say the Tragically Hip, in Canada, revered like an REM, like as big as it gets, as cool as it gets.
Tragically Hip?
The Tragically Hip. And all of a sudden, there's this invisible barrier, at the 48th parallel, and they can't get over it. And again, they do have their fans here, obviously, but nothing like they are in Canada. So it's very weird. Some of these have crossed over, some of them have not. Coming in at number 5, though, I don't think anyone will argue with me. In fact, I've seen her number 1 on some lists like this. Joni Mitchell. Joni Mitchell comes in at number 5 for me because not only did she find herself at the right place and the right time for her songwriting style, both lyrically and musically, for her sometimes challenging but often captivating voice, the nature of, she was doing Canyon music better than Laurel Canyon artists were, and she was from Canada. And she just put out landmark albums, some of them utterly flawless, and the quality of her songwriting for me even surpasses her ability to play and sing, although those are both, should be held in very high regard. She's one of the great North American songwriters in our lifetime, without question. That's why she's number 5 for me.
She, everybody wanted to work with her.
Everybody.
And everybody wanted to be with her. She was that magnetism.
There was a thing about her that you're exactly right. Like, I mean, everybody wants to work with Taylor Swift, right? Maybe she wasn't Taylor Swift popular, but it was better than that. She was well respected by her peers and to this day considered one of the great songwriters.
Indeed. I have another note on her, but that's for another day. Anyway, number 4.
Number 4, we turn our attention to a slightly more modern era, and the 90s in particular for me, and on through the 2000s.
Yes.
We are heading to, we're not quite, it's not Sum 41. I'm sorry. All right.
I thought you were going to say Alanis.
Nor is it Nickelback. Oh man, Alanis is my number 6 on this list. She's my first also ran. Just let me get through the list. All right. Sloan, this band matters to me. Sloan out of Halifax, Nova Scotia. Exactly. You asked me for my favorites. This is a band, again, are not quite as big as the Tragically Hip in Canada, but they are huge. They have a 30-year musical legacy, and they continue to crank it out. Sloan is interesting in that they have 4 members in the band. All of them contribute songs. Every one of them have songs on every one of their albums, and having seen them live, I initially thought it was a gimmick and then just realized these guys are that good. They switch instruments throughout the entire show. The lead singer and guitar player on this song, playing drums the next one, bass on the next one, and it's not every single song, but they do a lot of rotation. They write power pop. They write very touching and affecting music. They are very, very cool power pop band that virtually no one in America knows, but they are one of my very favorite bands of all time.
Number 4. That was number 4.
That was number 4.
Number 3.
Number 3. At number 3, we keep our attention on the east coast of Canada, and this one goes back into your wheelhouse, Common. You're going to like this one.
No time left for On My Way to Better Things.
That's not who it is, but I know they're your favorite. I know. But this is a little later, but not in an entirely dissimilar wheelhouse. What do you get when I say titles like All Over Town? Just Between You and Me, Flight of the Gypsy Queen? Nothing. You're staring at me with blank eyes. Flight of the Gypsy Queen?
I've heard the name of the song.
Just Between You and Me. April Wine.
Oh, April Wine.
Wine.
Yeah, I didn't mind. Yeah. No, they're brilliant.
Yeah.
I never really like went, whoa.
I thought April Wine was Minnesota sports fans during the playoffs.
Well,
Wait.
Where is it? There it is. April Wine, and they're not everybody's cup of tea, but growing up in Coon Rapids in the 70s and 80s, they were everywhere. They were ubiquitous on the radio, on friends I knew who played music. And they stuck more than almost any other band from that era. Sure, I love me some Night Ranger, but April Wine will remain one of my favorites of all time.
Very good. Number two,
and I'm going to get a little heat for this one. People are going to say maybe spent a little too much time at Cities 97 back in its classic days. But this right here, she's one of my all-time favorites for just about all the reasons. I love her music. My ex-wife and I, we played some of her music at our wedding ceremony. I've interviewed her a couple times. Aww. I have enjoyed her music and played it on the radio for decades. And also having met her and interviewed her a couple times, I can't find anybody sweeter or nicer ever. And I've been crushed out on her for about 35 years. That would be one Sarah McLachlan. Ah. She is not only a wonderful person, but she was the architect of Lilith Fair. A very important time in music, right? I mean, things were changing in the 90s. It was interesting. Grunge was happening. Alternative was exploding, but it was still a total boys club. And as much as it ever had been. And she went out of her way to say, hey, look at this. And didn't do it in a divisive way, did it in an inclusive way, but also in an important way at a time where people like Alanis Morissette were busting out and people were like, what's happened? There was a new voice for women in the 90s that hadn't maybe always existed before. And Sarah McLachlan did more than anybody else to help promote that on the musical level. I'm an unending fan of Ms. McLachlan.
Number one.
Southern man coming.
Yeah. That's exactly right. Again, I know this is a polarizing one because a lot of people simply cannot get past his voice.
Right.
I think that he might be, boy, I'd have to really sit down and make the list, but I think I am more than confident in saying he's in my top 10 list of songwriters all time. Yeah, I don't think he's in my top 10 albums. I don't think he's in my top 10 artists, but it's just a songwriter. The guy wrote so many important songs, and he also wasn't afraid of the darker end of material in terms of the things we think about and philosophies. And, I didn't love every experimentation he did throughout the years, but you're talking about coming up on more than a 60-year career, still getting weird every now and then, but that's artists. They get weird, right? And just consistently over that time, unafraid of loud guitars, unafraid to write about haunting and really searing sort of lyrical topics, and just enduring. We still talk about him 60 years into his career. I think Neil Young is probably my favorite Canadian artist of all time.
And he also made some terrific contributions when he joined Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
Correct.
And that was an iteration after Crosby, Stills, and Nash started. They added Young for a while. They did Four-Way Street, which is a terrific album.
And Buffalo Springfield before that,
correct.
and his songs, to me, musically, he stayed interesting. I saw him in the 90s at the Target Center, and he had Sonic Youth open up for him, and I understand what he was doing. I think he was trying to reinforce that he and Crazy Horse were into distortion long before distortion was a cool thing. That room was too big for Sonic Youth, but not that they're not good enough, but that's weird to see that kind of a band in a stadium. But Neil Young was great. I've seen him several times over the years, and he's brilliant.
Where's the Guess Who?
The Guess Who
Did they even make your top 10?
They are in the 3. Yes, they would absolutely make my top 10. But they're in the top 3 of my honorable mentions, along with bands like Rush, Bare Naked Ladies, Loverboy, Avril Lavigne, Feist, Arcade Fire, Gordon Lightfoot, Shania Twain, Triumph, Metric, the New Pornographers, who really should have been on my top 5. Our Lady Peace, another huge one. Rush, obviously. But the Guess Who, they're great. I mean, their legacy is undeniable, and they weren't afraid to make it a little gronky, like with the organ and the guitars.
Well, what I liked was, for me, it was so much of it was, people say, the soundtrack of my life.
Right.
But it was a soundtrack because their big hits were 60, probably 9, I think was their first hit, I think. And I could have them, in the wrong order. But I think it was, to me, one of the greatest love songs of all time is the song These Eyes. I mean, it's simply brilliant. The words, the lyrics, words and lyrics are the same thing. The lyrics, the music, the melody,
the lyrics,
the whole. And I've always been a huge fan of Burton Cummings' voice. Mm-hmm. I think he's one of the most underrated voices in rock and roll. And you know what's funny? Just a little side story on that song, These Eyes. It originally was called These Arms. Because that's part of, these eyes, these arms want to hold you, right? But then I think they started thinking, these arms just isn't quite as romantic as these eyes.
Not quite.
I mean, I think that helps, right? You go,
these shoes.
Yeah, right, exactly.
These fingertips.
Yeah, right. And so they went these. And then, of course, their controversial song was American Woman.
Oh, yeah.
Because what were they singing about the Statue of Liberty in America? And they didn't want it because it was a Vietnam War and that whole era there. And I've read things where the story changes, I think, depending upon what kind of a mood they're in. Sometimes you'll hear one of the band members go, well, yeah. Then I was like, no, it had nothing to do with it. But it was, and they've been in the news lately because, the two driving forces were Burton Cummings and Randy Bachman.
Right. And Bachman would go on to Bachman Turner Overdrive.
And three of the other guys in the band, and particularly I think two of them, they've been touring as the Guess Who.
Of course.
And of course, their posters and stuff don't say, that it's not with and so both Bachman and Cummings became bitter. There was lawsuits.
I'm sure.
You have to stop. This was just recent in the last year.
Mm-hmm.
And the court sided with those guys. And so they can.
With those guys, meaning the band?
Yeah, the band.
Really?
The other band.
Because they're the ones keeping it alive and they're the ones doing it.
Right. And so, no, but the court sided with Cummings and.
Oh, that's what I was asking.
Yeah,
so they didn't side with the band.
No. The band, now they still get to, there was some agreement where they can still play, but they've got to be perfectly clear that, by the way, Burton Cummings ain't here, and nor is Randy Bachman.
Right.
And not that those guys weren't important when the group was first starting, but they weren't the guys that were writing the songs, singing, and playing the guitars. They were, you had your bass player, your keyboard player, and your drummer, all very competent, but they just weren't. You know how it is. Certain guys make the band and other people don't.
I know exactly how it is.
Disappointed, no Carly Rae Jepsen.
Wait, she's on my honorable mentions.
Well, I didn't hear
There's only 5. I ran down all of them there, man. Leonard Cohen, Alanis Morissette,
Celine Dion,
Katie Lang.
Where's Bieber?
Justin Bieber. I said at the very top, thanks for listening, Justin Bieber, Drake, Sum 41, They Will Find No Love Here. I do like The Weeknd, but he doesn't displace anyone in the top 5.
How about John Kay of Steppenwolf? He left Europe, right after the war, right? They fled. He and his mother, his father, I think, they abandoned the family, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe the tragic story is his father was killed. Anyway, they left Germany, because that's where he's from. Then he went to Canada. They went to Toronto, and that's where he first became a musician, was up in Toronto with a group called the Sparrows. You saw him with me over at...
I sure did.
Over at...
Dakota, downtown Minneapolis.
Where he was done. He's completely done with Steppenwolf. He wanted to get back to folk singing, so he did a 7-city run to see if it would catch on with people.
Yeah.
It didn't. You know, you have to really like John Kay and be a fan, and I enjoyed it, but it ain't Steppenwolf. But so he was from Canada as well.
Right on.
Via Germany.
One very last note for those of you who live in the city of Minneapolis. Bruce Springsteen dropped a brand new song today called Streets of Minneapolis, and I'll leave that there.
We'll take a break. We'll come back when we do. The legendary Mark Rosen joins us next year in the family.